Before we start, let me guys ask you to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And also leave the comment if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much. Hey folks, thanks for stopping by and welcome back to my YouTube channel Czechoslovak Gun Stories. My name is Kuba, and in today's episode we'll finish our series on the history of SA-26 series of submachine guns. Last time we ended with the introduction of the submachine gun to the service in the Czechoslovak army in its 9mm form. It was named VZ-48A and B, later renamed to SA-23 and 25. However, only 2 years later, at the very beginning of 1950, Czechoslovaks were forced to start implementing various changes into their army so that they kind of match with the Soviet army. As you know, Czechoslovaks unfortunately fell into the Eastern Bloc after the World War II, and so we had to follow all the Russian military standards, etc., including the small arms ammunition. We were actually given two choices. The choice number one, to completely drop our weapons and buy the weapons from Russians. The second option was to take our weaponry and just rechamber them to the Soviet ammunition. So we chose the second way, obviously because we are Czechs, we want to have our own stuff. However, that meant that SA-23 and 25 had to be rechambered to the pistol cartridge that was at that time used in the Soviet Union. The thing that is very interesting, it was rechambered, as you know, to 7.62 Tokarev. However, at the time, Russians were already trying to get rid of the 7.62 Tokarev in favor of the newer 9mm Makarov. So you may be asking why the Czechs didn't really transfer the SA-23 to 9mm Makarov. Because this was still a confidential information, right? It was top secret. No one actually knew about the existence of 9mm Makarov at that time in the Czechoslovakia, and thus the only pistol cartridge used in the Soviet Union at that time was 7.62 Tokarev. So this was the choice for this submachine gun. Unfortunately, the factory that developed and produced these submachine guns was no longer operational in 1950 because it was way too close to German borders, and so they were forced to change their production program from weapons to motorbikes. Therefore, the Czechoslovak Ministry of Defense gave this task to Česká zbrojovka in Uherský Brod, today's CZ factory, and well, they started working on the project very, very quickly. The transformation was quite quick, as I mentioned. The request came from the Czechoslovak authorities in the very early stage of 1950. And by the fall of 1950, there was already a prototype that was being tested, approved, and only a couple of months later, the serial production started. Now let's have a look at the changes that were done to the original SA-23 and 25 submachine guns in order to use the 7.62 Tokarev cartridge. So the most important change was the tube of the receiver. It had to be thickened, also lengthened 1 centimeter, and so was the receiver cap. The same applies to a bolt and the recoil spring. Everything was beefed up so that it can handle the new cartridge, because as you know, most probably 9mm Luger is not only smaller but also much less powerful than 7.62 Tokarev, so you needed to really beef up everything to make sure that the cartridge will work just fine and that the lifespan of the submachine gun will not be shortened way too much, which was actually the problem, especially with the tube and the barrel. As a result of all those improvements, the gun got much heavier, 330 grams actually, which is quite a lot. And not only that, it also got much less comfortable to shoot because you had to angle the pistol grip and make it like wider for a new cartridge, because as I mentioned, 7.62 Tokarev is much longer and it's a bottleneck cartridge. So for the proper feeding, the pistol grip had to be angled forward. So the grip is really very, very bad. Also, the sights were changed slightly, and they are now even more terrible than they used to be. On top of that, the barrel obviously had to be changed, and per what we know, the lifespan of the barrel actually decreased compared to the 9mm Luger version. That's because, as I mentioned, the 7.62 Tokarev ammo is way hotter. Despite all these changes, the gun remained in the service of the Czechoslovak and later Czech and Slovak army for quite a long time, although not as a primary weapon, because as of 1958, the gun was continuously replaced by the VZ-58 rifle. However, some police and military units still kept these submachine guns because they were more compact even than the V version of the SA-58. And also, well, just for military reserve, they were kept in the army warehouses up until like 1990s, maybe early 2000s. Today, these are very, very popular and cheap shooters for the civilian sector. Typically, the price of this submachine gun is around 4,000 Czech crowns, which, yeah, it's quite affordable, I have to say. But since the 7.62 Tokarev ammo is getting more and more expensive as the sources are drying out, it's nice that you can also use 9mm if you have a proper barrel and proper ejector and recoil spring, because then it's very simple to just unscrew the barrel and replace the internal parts, and you can use 9mm just fine. You can even use the original magazines. And after all, this was one of the requirements of the Czechoslovak authorities when the gun was being transformed. The requirement was that returning the gun back to its original caliber 9mm Luger would be as easy as possible, which with this concept it is. So that was certainly a task that was accomplished. So guys, that's it for the history of the SA-26 series of submachine guns. Over 345,000 of the 7.62 Tokarev versions were ever produced, which is a bit more than in case of the 9mm versions. However, the gun is still a very, very nice piece of history, despite some of the issues that were actually caused by the transition to 7.62 Tokarev. After all, the designer of this weapon, when he saw the 7.62 Tokarev version, said that the whole transformation actually ruined all the features of the firearm that he came up with during the development of the original SA-23, 23 and 25 submachine guns. So that's once again a kind of a sad history of the Czechoslovak firearms industry. Guys, that's it for today. Thank you for your attention. I hope you learned something new about these lovely submachine guns. If you did, please hit the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you have any remarks, questions, whatever you want to share with me, the comment section down there is ready for you. So thank you, and until next time.